over the years, when Angie and I needed to have a talk, it was really time to talk with one of our kids. We called them into the office. They all know it. They know, like, you get called in the office, there's something to talk about. And Garrett's the only one we really got that we need to do that anymore. The rest of them grown. I just kick them in the butt. But unless they ask to talk. I don't force it as much anymore, I just kick them in the butt. We'll call them, and when that happens, we go in there. And when we go into the office, it's because we got some stuff we need to talk through, sort through. We got some things we need to really hash out. There's something that's worth talking about. And whatever it takes, cussing, tears, whether the kids need support because they're struggling, whether they're down and they're discouraged and need some encouragement. When it's time to get some real talk, we go into the office with them. And the reason we do that, we do whatever it takes. Whatever it is, we deal with it, we talk through it, we do whatever we can to work through it. We are not afraid of it. And the reason we're not afraid of tough talks is because Angie and I love our family too much to not talk through the things we need to talk through. And Jesus did not shy away from challenging conversations. I think sometimes we think he did because we like to look at the times that he was easy and graceful, but he had some tough talks because he knew there's some things that would only change your life by challenging you. And we are not going to be afraid of them. We love our family enough, and I love our church family enough, that we are not going to be afraid of the tough talks. We're locked in. So the next several weeks, we're going to really, really look at some of the tough talks that Jesus had. Because if he had them, we're having them. Y'all with me? You with me online? You can drop a comment, say you're with me, and let's engage and let's grow closer together, because we are going to dig in and we're going to look at the difficult things Jesus said. Tell somebody right now, one more time, probably a lot. Actually, one of many. Tell somebody you're trying too hard. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about why you do it, what it's doing to your life, and why you need to stop now. Why you need to stop now. Trying too hard is one of the worst, most destructive, most exhausting qualities of all of us. It is a problem that we all struggle with. You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. And you're tired because you're trying too hard. Life is harder because you're trying too hard. You lose when you try too hard. You miss out when you're trying too hard. It's a problem. It's your problem. It's all of our problem. The disciples struggled with it, but they dealt with it and weren't afraid to hit it head on. You lose trying too hard, and you miss out on so much trying so hard. I want us to start in Luke chapter 9. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Are you with me? You with me? I know it's a summer day. You with me? I know you're tired. You with me though? Tell somebody I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to grow. We're going to grow together, and we're going to dig into the word together. Luke chapter 9. This is some awesome stuff right here. It says, then his disciples began arguing about which of them was the greatest. I'm actually going to stop right there. The disciples gave up their entire lives. They gave up their careers. Some of them, or they gave up their families to follow Jesus over this 3-year period. They sacrificed everything. You talk about true commitment. And what happened is Jesus invested differently, and he invested different amounts in each of the disciples. So earlier, I think in this chapter even, it was definitely before this, he only took 3 to the Mount of Transfiguration. He left the others at the bottom. And so they left everything. So they left everything to follow Jesus. And what happens is they're struggling, they're grasping, they're trying too hard. They're having a pissing contest. They're arguing who's the greatest, who's the greatest. See, they want validation from Jesus. They want validation from the disciples. They want to feel valuable. They want to feel significant. This happens several times in the Gospels. You literally see them, and a lot of times Peter's the worst of them, because they all struggled with it. They're arguing. Could you imagine all that Jesus is doing around them, and they're arguing over who's the greatest of them? They want to feel important. They want to feel significant. They are trying so hard. They've given so much, and they're arguing. They are grasping for something. They want to feel good enough. No matter what they've done, they were committed. They were trying. They wanted to feel like God. They wanted to feel good enough. Every one of us want to feel valuable. We want to be affirmed. We want to find fulfillment. We want to feel good enough. They were arguing because they were grasping, saying, God, who's the great? They wanted to feel good. And Jesus hits it in the heart, man. Verse 47, he says, but Jesus knew their thoughts. So he knew their thoughts. So he brought a little child to his side. Then he said to them, anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me. And anyone who welcomes me also welcomes my Father who sent me. Whoever is the least among you is the greatest. Number one, I want you to see this. He read their thoughts. That means he heard their hearts. See, we live in a culture now, we hear the content of their conversation. We hear the words. That's why everybody, you stay pissed off you stay pissed off at people and you stay pessimistic towards people because we hear the people's hurt. See, Jesus didn't hear their hurt. He heard their heart. He heard their insecurities. He wasn't mad about their hurt. He knew that it needed to be dealt with. And Jesus right here, the Spirit of God in every day of your life, not just in this church, God hears your heart. He hears your insecurities. He hears your hurt. He feels it. He doesn't just know he's going to do something with it. He feels it. He heard their hearts. When it says he read their thoughts, he heard their heart because he was looking deeper. That's why he didn't just say you guys need to grow up, shut up, and move on. He didn't say you need to grow up. I'm God. I'm the point. Stop. What he does is he grabs a little child. I'm doing a baby. Y'all know I'm biased right now. But he literally grabs a child. He doesn't go hostile on them because he wants to hit them in the heart. He doesn't want to anger them. See, everybody right now, we like to make everybody mad because we're mad. We want to piss somebody off because we don't agree with them. He literally realizes, I've got to speak to their heart right now. Angie has taught me for years. I'm not great at it. She says, you gotta aim for our kid's heart. I'm very good at doing it as a pastor sometimes, but not as a parent a lot more. He says, the least among you. See, in that culture, it wasn't just kids represented innocence. It was they also were very least. Kids were not even nearly the attention was spent on them. They weren't important. They were some of the least important part of the society other than lineage. So he grabs a kid, grabs a child, and he said, guys, welcome me. He's not just talking about accepting them or loving them. He's saying, welcome this mindset. Least. Least doesn't mean less valuable. Least means we call kids naive, but really no, they're very, very, very pure and genuine. They're simple. They're simple. When he said he who welcomes a child, he's saying this is the mindset that will free you because you've been trying too hard. You try too hard all the time and you stay tired. He says the least because kids aren't jaded by success and ambition. Kids aren't jaded. See, what we do is we grow past the age of a child. We get insecure. Somebody wounds us. We live long enough to get hurt. We live long enough to get betrayed. We live long enough to become bitter. And what we do is we begin to overcomplicate. We begin to overcompensate. We begin to compare and compete against everybody. And we live in a culture that if you're not the best, then you're nothing. And if you're not first, you're last. And Jesus actually flips the script because that is his heart. That is the only way to find what you're looking for here. He says the first will actually be last. Jesus taught the last will be first. He said if you want to find your life, you lose it. If you want to be the greatest, you got to be the least. See, American culture, even the American church, we talk about greatness all the time. Matter of fact, meekness is not celebrated in our culture, especially with men. Gentleness is not popular. Jesus was saying, this is the least. Jesus said, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Not the go-getters, the meek. The meek, the gentle. But that meekness isn't popular. Meekness is seen as weakness. But in the kingdom of God, Jesus said meekness is actually greatness. Gentleness, because somebody that is not easily provoked is much more in tune with the mind of God than their insecurities. They trust God. That's why people can't take them off their path as easily. Least. Man, the Bible says to make every effort to be at peace. Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, not the people posting, trying to argue and fight everybody about every argument. He says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Jesus says, this is least. You have complicated it. Your life, you try so hard. You put so much pressure on yourself because you don't have the mindset that Jesus said the least among you is the greatest. And every one of us, every person who hears this message online, whether live or years later, listen to me, every one of us in the last 15 years of social media have been guilty of overcompensating on social media. Making ourselves feel better because likes, and they give us dopamine hits. We literally, if we get somebody to like our post when we don't like ourselves, least Jesus said, you got to get back to the simple. Kids don't do that. Kids aren't jaded by that. Kids may whine over eating, so do you. But when you add to it overcompensating and complicating and overthinking and overdoing everything, you do too much, which is why you don't get much done. Jesus said, you got to get back to pure, genuine. I don't care if it's unpopular. You're never going to find what you're looking for if you don't get back to it. We live in a culture that aggressiveness. Man, aggressive is great when you're playing sports. Aggression in life is not good. Blessed are the meek. Paul said to be gentle. Paul teaches a lot. Paul is like a go-getter. He is the most passionate writer of probably all the New Testament church. Peter was a talker, but Paul could write. Peter says respect all people. We have this mindset that we only have to respect people in authority. Peter said respect all people. Peter! Meekness. Also, kids are enchanted. You ever notice how it gets on my nerves, but really it gets on my nerves because I need to get better at it. They're enchanted. They're engaged. I may regret this and may not be able to get up. You ever notice how like you go, a kid, like they notice everything, man. I remember I was seeing my pawpaw Scudder and we used to go fishing. And catching a little bitty bluegill on a fly fishing rod, it was like heaven to me. It's perfect. Engaged, enchanted. I'm sitting down with my family. I just want to watch a Netflix show. And all of them, Garrett's the first, but honestly, even Will, Sarah, and Angie, they're like big kids. They're grown, but they're enchanted. They start laughing at Scotty, our dog. Our Chihuahua that is always doing the same stuff every day. I'm like, hey, this is on 1 hour a week. He does this every day. Y'all quit laughing. I'm listening. That dog gets on. I'm like, did y'all hear him doing that when the pest control guy was here? Because I wanted to kill him. Now you think it's cute. But they're enchanted. They're engaged. Least. Pure. Simple. Man, they get so mad. Angie's like, why can't you just let that happiness just flow? We stop that because we live long enough to get hurt and we learn to complicate things and we overcompensate and we get our feelings hurt by everything and we never feel good enough because we overthink and overdo everything. And Jesus told the disciples they were doing the same thing. He said, you better get back to what it used to be when you were enchanted by life, when you were hopeful before that guy hurt you. Before that parent left you, before you had that toxic relationship or family member drain you for way longer than you should have let it, you can always get back. He said the least. He says, guys, welcome this mindset back in your life. You need to go back because what we're trying too hard and we're tired because we're overthinking everything and overdoing everything in our life. And he said, the greatest among you will be the least. Be the least. And I'm going back up here because I don't need to throw my back out. Not today, Satan, not today. Not today. I can't promise when, but it ain't going to be today. I just talk junk. I'm going to have to finish this message no matter what. Back in seminary, I took a philosophy class, and I had a professor who was like, philosophy tends to be one of those things people are annoying. They think they know everything. They know nothing. But I had a professor say something. He said, you ever noticed, it reminded me, he said, you ever notice the story of Cinderella, how that he told the classes, how a child and an adult reads it? A child is enchanted by it. It's inspiring. We get old enough and we start criticizing it. So the professor says a child sees hope in this story where an adult says, why in the world did she only get till midnight? I say this because I've blown Garrett up lately, but Garrett honestly bothered me this week. I didn't tell him this till now because I'm going to embarrass him. He started saying, do you ever notice Cinderella, how stupid that story is? I said, why, G? He said, if the slipper fit her perfectly at the end, why in the world did it pop off when she ran in the beginning? I said, oh, God, he's joyous, but he's getting to be an old man already. Jesus said, man, you need to quit overthinking. We overthink, we overdo everything. You need to get back to least. He told the disciples he wasn't trying to beat them over the head. He was trying to get them to stop beating themselves over the head. You need to simplify some things in your life. It is Jesus, the way Jesus did things. He's telling them, the fact that you need praise and recognition is your problem. The fact that you have to be the center of attention to feel significant, which is why every now and then all the time you're high maintenance and you need some type of encouragement. You need to be told you're good enough way more than most people, is because you're trying too hard. You're doing too much. And Jesus said, babies, kids, simple. You need to simplify the thing. The gospel is simple, and when you start applying it to your life, it'll change your life. But what we do, we live in a culture we're thirsty. We're hungry for everything. Man, I talk to pastors all the time, and all they talk about is, especially the young ones. The young ones are the worst. I was one of them. I remember, that's why it annoys me now. I'm like, man, you're going to learn the hard way. They're like, man, I'm just going to get it. I'm going to get it every day. I'm going to do ministry like people play, go Pro Bowl. Least. You can work hard, but not put so much pressure on yourself. We're trying too hard. Jesus says, stop. He says, stop. Because this aggression, the way we're so ambitious, the way we worship our dreams and focus on our dreams more than we do our God, it is maybe an American culture. It is not Christian. Jesus said, the greatest among you will be your servant. You're like, man, it's my job. I should get the supervisor job. I put in my time. It's time for me to eat. Jesus said, the greatest among you will be your servant. We're trying to compete for the job that Jesus said wasn't great. Not saying when you don't get it, it's not an honor. I'm saying we do too much. Tell somebody you're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. We want to be right about who the greatest is. You know how many social media fights I've seen of people cussing people out over who's the greatest, LeBron or Jordan? I saw a legitimate social media site. Actually, this writer overcompensated. He basically started talking about how LeBron isn't even number 2. That's Kobe's spot. And I'm like, who cares, man? Who cares? They're both great in their time. The Bible talks about seasons and times. This is your time. What you going to do with it? You going to argue over somebody else and who they're the greatest? You're thirsty, and it shows, just like it did with the disciples. We want to be right about something because we don't feel right about anything. Tell somebody you're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. And you're tired because who cares? Man, we love to up somebody else's story. Somebody's sharing and we got to say a story because we're trying to. Man, I was in labor 23 hours. The person pops off right now. Well, I was in labor 40 hours. I spent a whole work week in labor. Yeah, and you spent the entire baby's childhood. Now you got a grown baby and all they did is watch you try to up everybody. And that grown baby child is doing the same thing because they put the pressure that they saw their mama, their daddy put on them. Now they put it on them. And you wonder why we live in a world where everybody's exhausted, cussing each other out on social media like it even matters. Sensitive, insecure, can't take criticism. Tell somebody you're trying too hard. We all do it. The disciples do it. We do it. We try too hard. We try too hard. You try to spend a bunch of money to prove you got money. And if you're not careful, you're not going to have anything to show for it because you're trying to prove you got it. You try too hard. We all are trying and we're tired. We go to church. There are so many people that are committed to church, but you go to church because of you go to church for your reputation far more than you do to work on your relationship with God. And that's the problem. Something like COVID comes, and a year and a half later, we've wiped out half of the committed average church membership in almost every church in the country because we had a bunch of people that tried too hard. So when things happened, they got shafted. They got insecure. They did too much, and now they're not even a part and not even connecting with God or other people. You're trying too hard. And it shows. And it will continue to show. You're in debt, man. You're in debt because you spent too much money and you know you did it. You know you spent money trying to compete with the next American dream and give your kids way more than they really needed to feel the love because they needed you more than they needed your money. And then what happens is you let your spouse get you in debt. It's on you because you tried too hard. And you need to stop right now before it steals more than it already has. We're trying too hard. We're cheap, man. We like to be generous when everybody's looking. But when it calls to be generous in private, when actually nobody else sees it, you cheat then because it's really more about the show for you because you're doing it for yourself. because you want to feel better. And God doesn't honor doing anything for the show. If you don't honor God privately, it doesn't mean anything honoring him publicly. Your heart needs to change. You're trying too hard. It's not a good quality to try too hard because it's insincere. It's not truly godly because you do too much because you want to feel good. And feeling good, our value has to come from Jesus or you're going to stay exhausted. You're going to stay exhausted. You embellish and you exaggerate over stupid stuff and everything, some of you, because you're trying too hard. The disciples are in a move of God that is going to last 2,000 years, and they're arguing, having a pissing contest around a fire. We try too hard, and we do petty stuff, and we live petty, and we bank our lives on small things because we're trying too hard. We're trying too hard. The urge to tell everybody, the urge to tell the world that you don't care what, y'all got in here right on time. The urge to tell everybody that you don't care what anybody thinks is proof that you care what everybody thinks. It's a confession. Tell the world. Type it and post it. It's a confession. If you have to tell everybody that you feel a certain way, then you feel that way because we try too hard. We don't realize it. We are just as easy to diagnose as the kids on the playground in elementary school because we're trying too hard, man. And Jesus is like, y'all got to stop. The fact that you feel the pressure to tell everybody your opinion and then hate the people and try your best to make them feel bad because they don't see it the way you do, because they don't vote the way you do, because they're passionately the other side of the spectrum than you, that is hateful. Jesus said, love God, love your neighbor. Simple, not easy, but not complicated. Least. We're minding everybody else's business because we're too tired to mind our own. We're too tired to work on our own relationship, so we like to work on everybody else's relationship with God. We try too hard. I could go on and on like this, like the Energizer Bunny, but y'all got to go to lunch. We do too much. We're tired, and the only way to find healing in your life is for your heart to change. Why do you care so much about what other people think? I mean, think about this. Think about this. Think about the person or the people that you care way too much about what they think. Whether, I don't care who it is, how close, how far. Think about it right now. I'm going to give you, don't worry, I'll wait. Think about it. The pressure to prove yourself and be approved, it's exhausting. Look at the disciples. Look at how petty they're being. It's exhausting. It will destroy you because you can never live up to other people because there's too many people. They didn't make you and they don't know you. Even the people that know you don't really know you because he knows you better than you know yourself. Why are you trying to please people? Because I'm telling you, the pressure you put on yourself to appease others is a pressure. It is a prison. It's a prison. You end up making nobody happy, you're not happy, and there's a few people that make you think they're happy because you've lived your life in a prison because you try too hard. You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. Why? Why do you do that? Why? The pressure to provide, man. Man, some of you guys in our culture and some of you single mothers, you work your tail off and you have this pressure to to give your kids extravagance, man. You're who you are because you, why? And what you're doing, you're trying to build this nest egg. But guess what? When you finally get that nest egg, your nest is gone. I'm going to say my points again. You lose trying too hard and you miss out. And it's going to be disappointing when you got plenty for retirement, but you don't even have a relationship with your kids. Trying too hard is a trap. It's a trap. You can't take criticism because you try too hard. You try so hard, it's great, you work hard, but when it comes to criticism that you need, I need, we all need, and you can't even take it because you villainize people who care about you enough to tell you because they do believe in you, but there's some things you need to do better. The fact that you can't even have a conversation with your spouse about things you need to improve on, it's because you're trying too hard. There's some things every one of us need to do better in every season. Not just this one, not just a bad one, and a good one probably the most because you get a little pride, think it's you. Why? Why? You spend so much money, you expend too much energy You put all your emphasis and focus and value in the wrong places, the wrong people for the wrong reason. You're trying too hard. You're exhausted. In Catalyst Church, we can't stay stuck here. You can. This world can. The American church needs it bad. This is just as, it's maybe bigger in the church, actually. The disciples didn't stay here. You can see it throughout their journey in the New Testament church. They didn't stay here because they weren't afraid to have the tough talk in themselves and deal with it. Because if you don't deal with this, if you don't truly start growing and truly start taking some things seriously, some hard conversations, what's going to happen is you can have a great marriage. You can have a spouse just like I got. You may have one. You can have a bank account that is raining. Have a kids that they are stars, they are academically, athletically, that you got everything. You can have the blessings of God right in front of you, be blinded. You can have it all, it not be enough. You won't enjoy it because you don't feel enough. You can have everything and be blinded because you're trying too hard. And you're trying so hard that you're exhausted because we're tired. We're tired trying too hard. You end up repeating old habits. You go back to old relationships that God saved you from because you're in default mode, because you're trying too hard and you're exhausted. You have no discretion. You have no wisdom. You have no clarity because you try too hard, because we haven't got back to this. We're trying to figure everything out. It's complicated and we're insecure. And by this time, you've wasted so many years. Be blinded to what God. It'll never be enough, the blessings of God, when you're trying too hard. Your life is a roller coaster, up and down. You're like, oh, it's lining up. Psh, hill. You know why? Because you make decisions out of fear and panic. You go back to old habits, old relationships. You keep doing the same. Your story, if you really look at your life, the details are really the same from season to season. Look at it, same old song to your own story, because you're trying too hard. Same disappointment, roller coaster. And God says, Jesus says, guys, you got to get to this. You got to get back. Your mindset's got to change. Your heart's got to change, or you're going to put so much pressure on yourself that you are never going to experience what I have for you. You care too much about appearance. The biggest fire that we feed in our life that just feeds this problem like gasoline is we care too much about appearance. Check this out. Luke chapter 14. It says, when Jesus noticed that all who had come to the dinner were trying to sit in the seats of honor near the head of the table, they cared about appearance. 2,000 years later, we're the same people. We care about appearance. Appearance. We want to feel honorable, and if other people feel like we're honorable, maybe we can feel like we're honorable. He saw these people 2,000 years ago putting so much pressure on themselves, and it says he gave them this advice. This is tough, man. This is tough. If we say this to our friends, they'll get pissed at us because we try too hard. We'll get pissed at them. When you are invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the seat of honor. What if someone who is more distinguished than you has also been invited? The host will come and say, give this person your seat. Then you will be embarrassed and you will have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. In other words, you'll be disappointed. Then you'll be embarrassed and you will have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. Instead, take the lowest seat at the foot of the table. Then when your host sees you, he will come and say, friend, we have a better place for you. Then you will be honored in front of all the other guests. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled. And those who humble themselves, look at me, those who humble themselves will be exalted. He says, then he turned to the host. Now, this is the person putting on the party. This is the person that they were at the pinnacle because they got to throw the extravagant party. He says, then Jesus, because Jesus wasn't afraid of it. That's why they put him on a cross. It was a political move. He pissed everybody off. Turn to the host. When you put on a luncheon or a banquet, he said, don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, and rich neighbors because you want to impress them, right? Appearance. For they will invite you back, and that will be your reward. all doing the right in public. That'll be your reward. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Then at the resurrection of the righteous, God will honor you for inviting those who could not repay you. Simple. We try so hard. We want our supervisor to see our abilities. Young people, you want the coach to see you. You know how you truly get other people. You know how you get the will of God, whether it's for them to see you or maybe it's the will of God for them to not see you, so somebody who really needs to see you will see you. You honor God. You work hard. The Bible talks about working for God, not men. We are so busy trying to give the appearance of honor that we don't even know, we don't feel honorable because we don't even know what honor is. The appearance, we want honor. Jesus says, hey, you want honor? Do it for people that can't repay you, because what about when people don't see you and don't celebrate you for what you've done for them? Because if you're offended by it, or if it stops you from being more generous and charitable, then you did it for you. Your hunger for honor is proof that you can't handle honor. That's what Jesus is saying. Your hunger for more money, your hunger for promotion, your hunger for title, your hunger for importance, your hunger for a partner, but you can't even be by yourself for 2 minutes, so you go get in toxic relationship after toxic relationship. You stay in them too long before you know it. You're 57 years old and you've never had anybody that was truly your partner. Your hunger, the things you're hungry for are proof of why you can't handle honor. Why you can. The things you're hungry for are proof of why you can't handle what you're hungry for. Because when you're too hungry, you try too hard. I'm as guilty as anybody else. Back at my old church where I started my ministry, doesn't matter why the decision was made, but I had started preaching, built an influence because I am a pastor. That's what I do. I love people way more than I do preaching. I do, and I love preaching, but it's the icing on the cake for me. And I built this influence, and we had to have a church directory, so I had to finally get a title. I had never had a title. I'd never had a title at our old church, and this was the title given to me. If anybody ever looks at the picture of that 2010 church directory, and anybody who loves The Office show are going to laugh, my title was assistant to the pastor. I'm glad I got some people in here that don't know anything about Office, because I don't like the show either. My kids love it. I was the joke of every Office joke in The Office, because I apparently didn't get to earn assistant pastor. I need to be protected. And it doesn't matter the motives behind the decisions, whether it was right or wrong, because my heart was off. The fact that it affected me that much in my very early 20s showed that I was hungry for respect and to be taken seriously too much. I wasn't ready for the ministry that God would eventually give me. And it took me years, y'all. I mean, I started at that church when Connor, who's now 26 and just gave us our grandbaby, he was in the 5th grade. Years I went from assistant to the pastor, that I graduated to assistant pastor, and when the church shut down, I was associate pastor. The church grew, man. Can we plant catalysts? I'm talking about the things that God did in this place and is still doing, but I'm talking about the numerical growth. It felt good. I'm not going to lie. Oh, it felt good. I'm talking about a guy that I always felt like I had to fight to be taken seriously because, I got my quirkiness that is unusual. It's definitely not traditional. And it felt good, It felt good. And then I've done ministry long enough now that I know you can't live off that. If you don't, your heart doesn't get right more and more, you burn out just like you do anything, because you can do ministry or anything good in life for the same motives that bottom-feeding business people do bottom-feeding business. If your heart and your focus and what you're hungry for is respect and success, you can be just as bad as ministry at cutthroat businessmen or a business. And you'll burn out. Look at how many pastors all over the country, especially in this season, but honestly for all time, they burn out. Because if you don't truly have a heart for ministry, or your heart, it's an outlet, to feel valuable, it doesn't matter how good you are at it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't. If you get married for the wrong reasons, your marriage will crush you. If you get a promotion and you're not ready for it, it will crush you, because the blessings of God will crush you if the blessings of God feed your fire more than your relationship with God. I was wrong, and now I can tell you that today and tomorrow I'll be more hungry. I want depth. I want depth. I get up here, it doesn't matter the crowd. It doesn't matter because it starts with me. It doesn't start right here. It starts tomorrow morning. And when you don't see me and I'm seeking Him saying, God, I want depth. I'll let the width, the numbers, what you give me, that's on you. Depth is what I want, not appearance. You can have this church could be packed out running 5 services. We could be wide and 2 inches deep. I want depth. Jesus said, depth is right here. Depth is when you got no peace in your life because with people around you, but you got peace because you're like, God, I want to bring it back the least. I'm not trying to prove a thing, the least. I want depth now more than ever before. I trust the results in everything I do. I trust everything. I got to focus on me because everything starts with me, my growth, my relationship with God. I want Him for the right reasons. I want every day not to focus on appearance, but to focus on Him because He is all that matters. No matter how many mistakes you've made, He is all that matters. Appearance will rob you. Don't quit caring so much about the appearance of a solid marriage. Address the problems in your marriage. We all got seasons, y'all. Tomorrow, Angie and I'm getting a procedure done, and I got time because I got to take the day off. We're meeting with our counselor that I told you that this year I've been meeting with from California for pastors, because I'm not afraid to admit that I'm still healing from a lot of things in my life. But I'm telling you, I don't care about appearance. I want Him. I want to care less about appearance tomorrow and 10 years from now. I am as imperfect as you, but I don't want the appearance. I want Him. I want the reality. And I'm telling you, the man I was in my early 20s, that wasn't true. And God knew that it would crush me. You don't quit trying to get the appearance of wealth. Quit trying to get the appearance of confidence. You spend your life trying to pretend to be confident, and you ain't even got a bit of confidence, and everybody wonders why you're so rude. Because you try to be cocky, but deep down you're broken. Just like we all are when we don't have Jesus. We settle for leftovers because we try too hard. You're trying too hard. I'm not going to settle. That's settling. Back in the days when y'all young people that are spoiled rotten, we had to go to Japanese steakhouse in Douglasville. Yeah, if you're not old enough to remember, you suck. No, I'm kidding. I love you. You just don't have any life experience yet. Me and Camp, he's sitting back there right now, and Camp we'd go to Douglasville to go to Japanese steakhouse, and this man would say, we're stopping at McDonald's to get a double quarter pounder, and I'm like, dude, we're going to Japanese, we're going to Hibachi, bro, not Hibachi Express. That stuff is nasty. It's not worth $2 less, and it ain't worth, it's like Burger King Hibachi. Anyway, he's like, I want to get a double quarter pounder. We get a double quarter pounder in 20 minutes where we're going to get Hibachi. You do it every day, don't judge him. You spend your life putting so much effort in the appearance of than doing things the right way and working on your relationship. You would rather put effort in the appearance than your relationship with God and doing things the right way and coming at Jesus the right way for the right reasons. You would rather focus on appearance than let God penetrate your heart and change your life. And that is settling for leftovers. And the reason we pretend so much, you pretend because you can feel better when other people believe in you, because you truly don't believe what God can do. You don't believe in yourself or Him when you spend your time pretending. The whole fake it till you make it, no, we don't do that. People fake it so they can feel better. They don't believe they can make it. When you try too hard, you fake it because you don't believe you can make it, so the best you got is fooling other people. You're not fooling anybody but yourself, because Jesus loves you. He's got a plan for you today, no matter what happened yesterday or 10 years ago. He loves you, and the hell with appearance. The hell with it. We got a God that if we make our bed in hell, he'll be there with us. But it's time for us to acknowledge his presence and do something with it. Do something with it. You don't have to settle for side chicks and whatever the male equivalent is. You don't have to settle for leftovers your whole life. And I want to finish with this because Jesus had some tough talks and I can't cover them all in the next several weeks. But do you know that every time but once that Jesus said the word hell, only once was it another word. Every time he used a word called Gehenna, which was a literal place in Jerusalem. It's beautiful right here, y'all. We totally miss the point, one of the biggest points of what Jesus was saying. Gehenna, when Jesus says they'll be cast into the outer darkness, well, the outer part of Jerusalem was a place called Gehenna. It was the Garden of Adam. It stayed on fire 24 hours a day. This is why. They would put their trash in it. They would put their dead bodies in it. It was a crematorium, it was a trash dump, and it was a place like a graveyard where you're crying in your sorrow, which is why Jesus said, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, because there were bugs in the fire that would eat the dead bodies. He was talking about sorrow because remember the guy with the talent, Jesus told the parable, the master gave money to each man, and everybody went and grew it, but one man was so scared of losing that he lost. And the master comes back and says, did you grow it? And he said, no, I was scared because I thought you were hard. And so I went and buried it so I didn't lose it. And you remember Jesus is telling the parable, says, you wicked and lazy servant. He took what he gave him and gave it to somebody who would use it. And he said, cast him into the outer darkness where there would be weeping and gnashing of teeth. He said Gehenna right there. Because he was teaching, Jesus was brilliant about hitting us in the heart, right where it hurts, where we need it. He said, if you don't get rid of this trash thinking, your life is going to constantly be disappointed. Trash thinking gets you trash results. Trash thinking gets you trash relationships and trash incomes and toxic families and toxic lives. Just like staying in the bed gets you depression. Jesus said Gehenna. He said you're going to constantly, this lazy servant, he wasn't trying to punish him. He was saying this is what you're choosing every single day. Sorrow, weeping, gnashing of teeth, a trash dump. When he says the path is wide to destruction, he says Gehenna. You don't have to stay in the junkyard. Your life doesn't have to be constantly disappointed. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself that you can't even function because you don't feel good enough. You don't have to have pissing contests the rest of your life. You don't have to accomplish more to feel more. You have a God who loves you, and the power of God comes in peace. You're trying too hard, man. You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. And Jesus loves you too much to let you stay in the trash can, to let you die miserable, to let you watch people leave you constantly because you push them away. He loves you too much. Online, he loves you too much to let you stay on that couch if you know you need to be here. He loves you too much. And I know life is hard, but it's going to be hard until you'll hear what he's trying to hit you in the heart with. Will you bow your heads with me? You don't have to stay confused. You don't have to keep overcomplicating everything. You don't have to keep overcompensating and trying so hard. You can have clarity, but you've got to get back to the simplicity. God loves you. That's all that matters. He created you. He knows you. And he does not think about you what you think about yourself. And he does not see the situation in front of you like you do. He's bigger than it. And it is time to quit putting so much pressure on yourself to perform and to provide and to be what you think everybody needs from you. Quit caring about what other people think. You're hiding. And God is saying, stop trying so hard and trust me. And I know I got some people in here right now that you know that you need to let him in your heart. Because the Bible's far more than just salvation from an eternity. Jesus wants to save you and heal you right this minute. He wants to grow you closer to him. He loves you. You have been ridiculous, but his love is still your reality if you choose him. I've been ridiculous. We've all been ridiculous, every one of us, but we don't have to stay stuck. So if you know in your heart right now, you need to say, Jesus, yes. You need to stop trying. You need to stop shooting for appearance. If you know right now that you need to say, Jesus, yes. Jesus, heal me. I acknowledge how arrogant I've been. I acknowledge how I've disconnected from you. Online right now, if you're watching this and you know that you've disconnected from God, people that love you, whatever, acknowledge whatever you know is on your heart. Be honest. Don't be ashamed of it, because God isn't ashamed of you. Whatever's in your heart right now, you need to be honest. Let him in, because what God wants to do in your life starts with a decision. It may seem like a long way. You may be like, it's a journey of 1,000 miles. Well, you know what? It starts with step one, my dad used to say. I'd give anything if it had taken that step in this life. Right now in your heart, if that's you, say it. Say, Jesus, I want you. I don't want anything but you. I want what you did on this earth. You died for me. You lived for me. It's time for me to choose life. I choose you. I'm not choosing facades. I'm not choosing personas. I'm not choosing appearance. I'm choosing you, Jesus. Change me. Mold me. It starts with me. Heal me, Lord. Heal me. Don't ask him for anything other than to work in you right now. Jesus, change me. I give you my heart. I give you my ways and my terms. It's on you. It's for you. All heads bowed and eyes closed. If you just prayed that prayer and made a decision, some type of commitment or recommitment, I want you right now just to stick your hand in the air if you made a decision. Don't be afraid of appearance. Just stick your hand in the air if that's you. We haven't done this in a while, and I want us to quit caring what other people think. All heads bowed or eyes closed, but you need to celebrate it just like everybody was looking. I thank you. Thank you. You follow him. Don't follow other people. Don't follow the pressures of life. You follow him. Look up at me, Catalyst. Those of you who's raised your hand, or anybody that you didn't raise your hand and it's on your heart, we're here for you. Randall, if you'll go ahead and go to the prayer room, we got somebody that can talk to you and pray with you. I'll be up here as we dismiss here in a minute. Online, we're here for you. If you need somebody to talk to you about your relationship with Jesus and what you need, or somebody to believe with you, my email's coming up on the screen, and somebody will reach out to you as soon as possible, because we are growing together. We are in this together, and God loves us too much to leave us the same. He loves you too much. I know this season may be a whirlwind, but he loves you, and he's just getting started.